Hey guys, how's it going? So it's Saturday and I'm finally getting around to doing my hybrid kit on my EVGA for the Win 3 edition RTX 3090 Ultra. Like I say, I've had this standard one since they went live back in September, and I got the hybrid kit delivered here a few days ago. I just haven't had time to install it yet, but I'm gonna go ahead and go through that process today so we can get this one upgraded to the all-in-one 240mm hybrid kit water cooler. Then it should look pretty much like the one that I did the other day where I unboxed the hybrid edition card. This will look just like that when it's finished. Stick around for here for a minute and we'll see what's going on. If you haven't already done so, please click the like button, subscribe to the channel, and leave a comment below. Thanks. Alright, so here again is the stock for the Win 3 Edition Ultra, as we had already. This is one I purchased a couple months ago when the cards first launched. And then the thing we're going to do now is get into this hybrid kit, which, like I say, is what came in the mail the other day. And we should be able to get this thing opened up and see what comes inside. I think we pretty much know what comes inside. It's going to be a water cooler that's going to convert this card, and it should look, like I say, pretty similar to how the other one looked when all said and done. I'm going to back up the camera a little bit here. I'm going to try to do a good job here of recording all this. Why is this, I swear to God, like it's always having problems with Ultra, with focusing. Alright, I'm going to try to do a good job of capturing the process so we can, when all's said and done, you shouldn't have any struggle with doing this yourself. But if anybody has any questions, please, as always, feel free to ask them in the comment section. Not only does it help me in the algorithm, but I'm perfectly happy to answer any questions you might have. It's funny, the boxes came in. It's just as big as the box that the cards came in. So, looks like it's about the size of an X box. My kitty keeps getting in the way, so I'm going to try to make sure he doesn't leave any static discharge in anything. He's been running around in here since I came in to set up. He's an excitable cat. So, I think it'd be funny if they just sent me another hybrid card by accident and put it in this box, but probably not that fortunate. The MSRP on this is like $129, and then they charge you shipping and tax, and altogether it ends up being like $150. I kind of went over this with them on their Facebook page, but they never really got back with me on it. But this is not a cost-effective way of getting a hybrid card. If you can get just a hybrid card directly, excuse me, I don't know what's going on. I got like something in my throat. But I was going to say, EVGA and their infinite wisdom, the hybrid card is $1,800. Or the stock card like this is also $1,800. So there's really no benefit to doing it the route that I'm doing it with this one, except for when I bought mine, they didn't have these out yet. And so now I'm upgrading the card with the kit that I received. But like I say, if you want a hybrid card and you can do it, I would just get in the queue on the website and get a hybrid card, because you'd save like $150 and you wouldn't have to do the work yourself. Whereas, this way, if I screw something up, it's sort of on me, versus when they screw something up, like you can send it back. I mean, EVGA is a good company. Like, they're going to let you get your money back if there's a problem with it, as long as you didn't just blatantly mess it up or something. But it's just one of those things where I think that they were kind of unfair in their pricing scheme this time around. Because in the past, like if you bought a non-hybrid card, it was usually about $150 less to $200 less than the hybrid edition. Now they're the same price, and like I said, that doesn't make sense, because if you want to upgrade your non-hybrid card, then you're just having to spend that much more money on the process and do the labor yourself. There's no upside to that, really, other than maybe doing a video about it like this. So, looks like we've got some of the same accessories. If you guys watched the video I did on the when I did the unboxing of the actual hybrid edition card, it came with a lot of the same stuff. So these are like fan mounting washers and screws to mount your radiators and or your fans on whatever type of case mounting system that you have. This little bag here comes with, I've done these before on different generations of their cards, so I kind of know how it's going to work. But like here, there's like a little part that will kind of clamp down the tubes as they protrude from the card itself. And there's a bunch of different screws and little grommets and things and different types of mounting spring screws and so forth. We'll have to get into that stuff and see what all of it's for, but that's what comes in that little bag. Pardon me, I don't know what's going on, but like in the last 5 minutes, it seems like I keep getting like a tickle in the back of my throat. It's making it hard to talk without coughing. So this is the little card that they all come with, telling you how to orient your radiator, in case you're unfamiliar with that. And this is a hybrid installation kit walkthrough guide, which is what we'll probably be looking at here for it, because even though I find that these things are usually fairly straightforward, sometimes maybe not so much. So this kind of, like I say, goes through step by step. I guess it starts on this side. So it tells you how to take off, like what screws you need to take out. So it looks like you got to take off the back plate, and then you take off like the heatsink fan assembly, screws to remove here on the end of the card, and it says to clean off certain things, so etc, etc. We'll go through it here step by step as we go, but at least this looks like a fairly good guide. It's nice and colorful. It shows you step by step what you need to do, what screws need to go where, so on and so forth. When in the past they've kind of not necessarily always been quite as straightforward. Like I had one, I think it was for the 2080 Ti, where they had like a hybrid kit installation, but it was like for the 2080 and the 2080 Ti, and the guide was for both, and it's like it had pictures for both, but it was a little bit unclear sometimes which card they were referring to at each step, and so you'd be possibly confused as to what you're supposed to be doing. I think that was everything that came in the box. No, I was wrong. There's some EVGA Velcro cable management ties, so that's cool. For when you get done, you can kind of try to cordon everything off and make it look pretty, if you're into that sort of thing. And why would you buy a card like this if you weren't into making things look pretty? Okay, so the other things that come with it here, we've got obviously the main water cooler itself, and then there's also some other things. Tell you what, I'm going to go ahead and put this box out of the way. 1 second. All right, I've kind of cleaned up my work area a little bit. That makes it a little bit better. We're going to open this bad boy up here and try to get access to what comes with it. They've kind of packed everything in here in one little area by the looks of things. Alright, so that's this cardboard. Throw that off to the side. So here's the pump, which I'd be careful because it looks like it's still connected to some things. So when you take this out of here, don't just go yanking the pump out of there. It's got some wires that are connected to the fan shroud, and we don't want to damage anything. Alright, so I've got that out of the way. And you can see, like I said, there's some wires coming off of the pump here that connect to this fan shroud. So if you go yanking this out of there, when you take it out of that electrostatic bag, you're going to damage something. So watch what you're doing with that. Just be careful. So that's a step you got to make sure you watch out for. I'll be right back here in 1 second. I got to go grab some isopropyl alcohol. I forgot to grab some of that. And that way, because when you take off your heat-sink and fan assembly on the original card, you're going to have to clean off the thermal grease and replace it with new stuff. Well, it comes with some thermal material already applied to the water block, but you want to get rid of the old stuff that's already on the GPU. So give me 1 minute while I go grab that. This is the other container that came in there. A little package, whatever you want to call it. And this is, looks like it's a form that goes around the water block, so you can see like the same corner screws, and it's likely going to fit around somehow. We'll mount this on the card and then mount this to that, but it looks like it kind of creates conductivity around all the VRMs and stuff. Kind of hard to see how that'll work. I'll have to look at the instructions and go through this, but that's what I'm going to do here in a minute, is just go over the instructions and make sure I understand what I'm doing, and I'll continue from there. Alright, so if you guys have no objections, I think we'll just go through this step by step and try to get this done. So as it says, we're going to take off the 9 what says BP screws in red, and then it's going to remove the 4 GPU screws with BP for backplate, and then 4 GPU screws in blue, which holds the heatsink fan basically helps it, connects it and keeps it attached to the GPU, backplate, PCB, etc., etc. So we're going to go ahead and just start taking these screws out as they've suggested. And for this, you want some kind of a fairly small Phillips head screwdriver. I like this one because it's got a little magnetized tip, and so when you pull screws out of stuff like this, it doesn't necessarily get dropped, or it doesn't. There you go. There's a little washer on the other side of that one, or a little nut rather, that keeps that from getting out. So you're going to want to hold, like, put your finger on the back of that, and when you turn it, so it can get a grip on it. But the rest of these should come out pretty straightforward, I would think. Maybe not, I don't know. Like it's turning, but it's not coming away. So I don't know, maybe these, this one down here looks like it's got something in the same ballpark. There's another nut on this side of that one. I've got like a little cup here that I'm using just to hold screws and so forth, and it's probably a good idea to have something like that handy. I'll come back to this one. I think maybe it'll just pull away with the back plate when I'm done, but if it doesn't, we'll try to figure out what's causing that to stay kind of stuck in there. These are fairly lengthy screws. Now this is also got a nut on the other side. So these corner ones all seem to have, like I said, a little nut on the opposite side of the back plate that makes it so it doesn't really want to come out of there. Oh, you know what? I've got this in reverse orientation of the picture. That's why. Hold on, I'm just going to turn it around for my own sanity here. Not that I'm making this any more difficult for any of you necessarily, but I have this backwards, and so, like I say, this is how they have it oriented, just to make it so it's a little bit easier to make sure I take out all the right screws. See, there's going to be one underneath this little EVGA. Yeah, see, there's always like a sticker over one of these, so there's a screw hiding in there, so don't forget that one. There we go. Okay, I think I've got everything off there except for that one that didn't really want to come up for some reason. And it still doesn't really want to move, so I'm not sure why they would make it so you can't get that one out of there. Okay, so there was a nut in there too, which I think is really a questionable design decision on their part to have that like that. I don't think I've missed anything. Okay. Now the reason it's still sort of sticking is because you've got this thermal material here that's sort of holding it in place. But there's that screw. Now there was a nut that came out of that, but it sort of fell. I heard it fall down. So I'm trying to... Yeah, there it is. Okay, I picked up the card and it fell at the end of the card. So that was what was holding that one screw in place right there, is that nut. So, as they've shown here, we remove the back plate. It also says to remove these 4 screws around here to get this to release. So, I'm going to set the back plate off the side. I'm pretty sure that we'll get to put the back plate back on when we're done, because these things are kind of yucky looking with that taken off there. Not nearly as attractive. These are clearly pretty well under pressure. You see how they pop up as I do this. The nice thing about going from the larger 3-slot cooler like this down to the hybrid kit is that the hybrid kit is 2 slots and then I can fit more cards in your system and free up space between them to have, you know, give you a bit more airflow. So that's a nice bonus to doing this. Let me look at the next step and we'll continue. All right, so the next step it says to do is to flip the card over and to take off the heatsink fan assembly, but you got to make sure you take off each of these connections as you do it, because these are the 3 different fans that are on this plus the LED connection. Looks like I've got a little cat hair in there, unfortunately. It's just impossible to avoid in a house with a long-haired cat. His hair ends up everywhere. But like I say, we've got these 3 little connections for the fans and the LEDs, and you need to remove those as you go. I'm going to try to figure out how to do one of these, and then I can show you guys how to do the rest of them. I just want to make sure I'm not breaking anything or damaging this as I do it, because I think like a way to do this is probably to get, like I say, something like that. Well, that was not the way to do it, so don't do what I just did, which is to break the goddamn thing off. Nice. Good work. Well, this card already had some damage to it, so now it's a little more damaged. Great. Don't do that. All right, I'll be right back when I figure out how to do this properly. All right, so ignoring the dumbassery that I just engaged in where I damaged that frickin' connector, if you just start slowly prying this apart, it looks like it does at least start moving fairly straightforward. Trying to figure out, okay, there, it was just kind of, there's sort of like a little catch there at the end there. See, and that comes up without too much trouble. I'm trying to figure out what the process is here for removing these connections without damaging this thing, because like I said, they've got a wire on the other side too. That might be hard to see. Here we go. So it's connected here, and then it's got the 3 connections here. I need to figure out how to do this without causing damage. Like I say, they just don't necessarily want to come out of there. And there's no mention of how you're really supposed to do that. That's really kind of stupid if you ask me, that they're not. I don't see a way to do this. All right, give me a minute. All right, well, I got one of these off here. This is not real straightforward in my opinion. Your mileage may vary, but you got to kind of, I don't know if you can see it, but you got to pinch, and it kind of lifts up the edge of the tab there, and it should come off for you pretty well. All right, see. And this one, since I already damaged the damn thing, yeah, that came right off. Ah, great, good job, Joe. Yeah. And then down here, we've got this other one that's looking to be the same scenario. Let me see if I can get that in the camera for you. Try to zoom this in. You can see down here, it's the same story. This is what got damaged on it before. One of the freaking RGB pins got bent off the damn thing, so that didn't help nothing. But, having all kinds of fun. So this is kind of the same scenario as the other ones, by the looks of it. You got to kind of get a pinch on it. It's really hurt. God damn it. Alright, well, I guess I pinched it enough that it came up, so good. So that's kind of hard to, a little convoluted to get that off there. But you got to pinch up on the, like say on this upper portion of it, enough to lift up this little tab a little bit, and then you can pull it away. It's just, it's awkward to work with. So I apologize for making a jackass of myself. Luckily this is my card and not your card, so you don't have to worry about yours being damaged. This is why you can watch me make an ass of myself first, and then you can not do so in kind. Alrighty, next step coming up, it looks like, is we've got to take this back mounting bracket off of it. Here it shows that they want me to take these screws off here for whatever reason. This IO shield bracket. So we've got 3 screws back here, which is pretty straightforward on removing things like that. It shouldn't be something I can screw up too badly, but we'll see. Since I've made mistakes already that I shouldn't have made, who knows, right? All right, I'm gonna won't put that on my blooper reel. If I ever made a blooper reel, that would go well with it. Bloop, there goes that blue tab. Okay, So that came off easily enough. Like I say, a little harder to make a mistake on that. So we've got our IO shield removed as they said to do. Next thing it says to do is to use a lint-free cloth. And it says they want you to, well, if we could read this, use a lint-free cloth and high percentage isopropyl alcohol to clean GPU and remove any leftover thermal putty on the graphics card in the regions marked in the image. So you can see they've got stuff on here, stuff on the GPU. So we've got all the VRMs, got crap all over them, and we've got stuff on the GPU itself. This little extra bit just sort of laying around here. So I've got some handy here. So I've got my isopropyl alcohol, and I've got paper towel and Q-tips. And so what I'm going to do is follow their instructions and try to get this crap off of here. Zoom in here a little bit. You know, I probably should be careful about the back side of it too, because these parts are on here and I don't want them to get stuck to the table or anything. So I don't know if there's much I can do about that or not. There's probably a better material to let this sit on than just a wooden table like this, but that's sort of what I got. So 1 second here, I got crap laying on my table. Get my little trash bag handy so I can throw away my paper towels and such. There's a lot of that crap on there. It's kind of baked on there pretty good, but again, according to the image, and I guess I've got it upside down again, but whatever, they want you to take this off, they want this to come off, and this to come off. And so I guess I'm going to do what they tell me to do and take a crack at it here. Hope you guys are enjoying today's content, watching me mess up an $1,800 video card. Maybe you too can mess yours up. I wouldn't advise it though. Try not to mess up your $1,800 video card. Try to avoid that sort of thing at all costs and leave that to the professionals. Leave it to the professionals to fuck up an $1,800 video card. Pardon my language, but gee whiz. So, get some of this cleaned off here. Looks like that's gonna take a minute to get all that goodies off of there. Tell you what, I'm not gonna make you sit here and watch me do this. You guys can figure out how to clean off crap off of yours. So I'll be back here when I have that done. Alright, I think I got everything off there pretty good. I mean, there's still a little bit of material in between each of these little chips, but as far as the actual surface of everything goes, I got it pretty well cleaned off. I used a combination of paper towel with isopropyl, Q-tips with isopropyl, and some compressed air to kind of blow crap out of there. Because a lot of it is sort of dry material. It's been on there perhaps a while. I don't know. It's not that old a card, so I don't really see how they could be. But whatever. I mean, this stuff sits in there next to a hot source like a GPU after a while. Probably kind of gets a little baked. But anyways, this stuff is a little bit dry. So like I say, as you get it out of there, I'll clean off my work area a little bit. Some of it will be sort of crumbly around like these areas here and around the edges and so forth. And so like I say, I just kind of hit it with some compressed air and blew it into my trash bag as best as I could to keep it from getting all over the place. But some of it invariably will probably get all over the place on you. But like I say, that's cleaned up. So it says the next step that they want us to do is, I'll zoom back on here, and it says to take, and it says set the card aside for now and remove the shroud, pump water block, and the tube bracket from the hybrid kit. Place the pump in the notch locations in the shroud. Okay. So you can kind of see what they're getting at. And then it says use the two tube bracket screws in the location marked below. So you can kind of see there's going to be a couple of screws, and we're going to mount something in there. And I think that's going to come in that bag that I mentioned. I think we've got all these little goodies that came in the main bag. I don't even know what this is. It might be more thermal material, I guess, or something. It's just a little silver bag. I don't know, but whatever. So this is what they're talking about here. So give me a second. I'm going to set the card off to the side like they said to do, and we'll start working on the shroud and prep that for installation, I guess. All right, I'm getting a little irritated with them because their instructions just leave steps out or don't tell you things. And so I'm not even sure what screws I'm supposed to use, but I think it's 2 of these. It says use 2 tube bracket screws. Well, there's literally nothing on there that says tube bracket screw. Like none of the screws that they labeled and that they show in the part manifest have that name. But basically, you're going to put 2 screws through here and kind of use it to clamp down the 2 tubes as they go out the top. And there's 2 prongs, there's 2 spots here, there's one here, and you can kind of scoot that, but there's another spot there, and this is going to kind of like hold this in place and keep the pump from moving around. But they don't tell you that, so that's kind of one of these, like, why the hell is this not mentioned in the instructions steps? And then another one is, this is what the 2 fans from the radiator are going to connect to, and it doesn't tell anything about where you're supposed to route that. But if you look at the picture closely, you can see it goes up out between the 2 tubes. And again, I've done these before on previous cards, so I kind of am familiar with the way that you route that. But again, they don't tell you that in the instructions at all. It doesn't even mention it. It's like a step that they just gloss over. So that's kind of irritating. But I'm going to go ahead and take off this plastic material first before I continue, because it's kind of in my way, and I don't want it to be in my way. So, get that stuff off there. This is going to have to happen at some point. Stuff there. Alright, you can see we've got our 1 VRM fan spinning nicely. LED on there, it lights up. Once you control that through EVGA Precision X1. We've got a couple of thermal pads here. This will be for those VRMs that we uncovered a minute ago with that material that we put on there. Actually, it looks like, I'll go back here in a second, but it looks like they give you material to cover up next to those two. I need to take the stuff off that was already on there, I guess. So I'll go back and show you that in a minute. But the LED is controlled by this power plug. And then you've got one down here, a brown one for the fan, which I'm having a hard time getting a hold of. So hold on. There's one down here running off the fan. And so as you remember on the card, we had the blue, black, and brown plugs. So again, we're going to have this hooked back up into the brown one. What's funny is the blue one that I accidentally damaged. It doesn't look like we're going to need to use that anyway. It still works. Like I say, it just damaged a little clip that was on it, which is not that big of a deal. It just keeps it in place probably from moving, but I don't think that really would move anyway. But it doesn't look like I'm going to need that. So of all the ones I could have damaged, at least it's probably the least important one, if there's anyone that you could label as such. So like I say, I think, and then the other one here, so you'll use the brown and black one from the corner, but not the blue one. So the brown one is for the fan, the black one is for the water pump, and then the other black one up by the 3 8-pin power connections is for the LED. And this is like a 4-pin, and these, or maybe that's, okay, so this is a 5-pin, and these are both 4-pin connections. Not that that's that important, but just so you know. So for this, I think based on the picture, first of all, they have you take this right off of here, because this is going to get in the way pretty quick. So that plastic cover, and this is the thermal material they've already got in the water block for us, so we shouldn't need to use any, but it does come with some. That's what that little packet that I found was for. That is thermal material. If you needed to reinstall it later, or had a problem with it or something and didn't like the way the installation went, you could redo it, and that's what you would do. But I think the way that you're supposed to route this is something like up here along the side and out. But again, they don't tell you anything in these frickin' pictures, so it's really one of those things where it's just like you kind of got to fiddle with it, I guess, until you find what works. But there's let's see here. So I've got this kind of aligned, and then you're going to take, hopefully you can see, but this is, again, this is going to supposedly keep things from moving around too much. So this is sort of being a pain in the neck already. I can tell that this is going to be hard to do. Why do they do this stuff? Like, why do they make this convoluted as they do? I can't tell if it's supposed to be on the outside or on the inside. I'm going to take a look at this and try to make this a little bit more straightforward because I'm having a hard time seeing what I'm doing. If I'm having a hard time seeing it, you're gonna have a hard time seeing it. So one second. I don't know, guys. This is really a poorly designed method by which you're supposed to do this, but I think you're supposed to somehow get all of it. I mean, maybe that's correct. We'll see if we can get this to stay in place, and then we'll get a better look at it. But this is really awkward. Like I said, they don't tell you what screws you were technically supposed to use. I think I've got the right ones, but maybe I don't. They don't show you how to route that fan splitter. Like they say, like they just like gloss over stuff and say just do it, and it's like, okay, well, right. I'd like to. Please tell me more. And it looks like these screws are probably correct, so that's good. Try to get this kind of tightened down without stripping anything. Alright, well that's on there anyway. Let me see. Yeah, I guess I got, well, that pump's kind of still wobbling around, but whatever. So you can kind of see here, you want this fan splitter going through that little section in the center, and then the tubes in the rounded section. You push it down on top of them, and then you screw it into place here with these two longer screws that they called, tube screws or whatever the hell they called it. But again, it's not labeled that anywhere, so for them to call it that is kind of seems disingenuous to me. When they give you a whole bag of like 10 of them, so if that's for that, then why is it they I think they're more of a universal all-purpose screw, but whatever. So next thing I was going to go back to is, as we looked at a minute ago, let me bring the card back over here. So I left those two strips on there. I believe you're supposed to take them off because, as you can see, I'll take these plastic strips off of here, and they've already got some on the new portion, so I don't think this was like this. This was cockeyed on here, so they didn't do a very good job of protecting these with the plastic, but that's all right. So yeah, you can see, for example, the way this is going to lay on this is going to be, I probably have this backwards, yeah, but the way it's going to lay on it, you figure it's going to be something like this. And so these two new strips are designed to replace the ones that were already on the card, so I just need to take those off too, apparently. And it says you should keep them with the original card, and that way if you go back to your original cooler, that you'll have them handy. So I'm just going to try to kind of peel that off there a little bit and retain it if I can. It's kind of difficult to get that off there without just breaking it into little pieces though, so this is sort of another one of those steps where it's like, why can't I just leave, why didn't they just tell you leave these ones on here and not include any with this? This would have worked just as well. It's already on there. Like, why do I need to play this game? But whatever. I'm gonna take these things off here and store them with the original card as best I can, and we'll come back. It's not real easy to get them off though, guys, like I say, without damaging it. It's just really flexible, rubbery stuff. You can see it just wants to break on you a little bit. Maybe I can slowly tease it away from there. You kind of get the, no, see, it broke. I don't see how you'd possibly do that without damaging it. So, all right, I'm going to try to get that stuff off there so I can use the stuff that came with it, which is, I think that's another questionable step that they've added. But all right, hold on. All right, I cleaned off these components as best I could with like a dry Q-tip. Seemed to wipe off the rest of the remaining gunk pretty effectively. So got those off there. Like I say, now that these, they have these on here that should line up and fit back into place successfully without a whole lot of shenanigans, hopefully. Probably one of those things where if you don't line it up right the first time that you're going to end up with trouble though. So I'm going to go on to the next step here in a second. We'll see. I think the next step that they're talking about is to install this plate here onto here and get this out of the container, or out of the bag, excuse me. Okay. So it kind of looks like, again, another step where maybe they didn't show everything that they should show is that, okay, you can see here, like, they're going to want this like this on here, but it's already got thermal tape around each side, so I don't really need, once again, the thermal material that was left on the GPU, because, this is the video memory that we're talking about here, but these that were already on here, once again, it looks like they've got new stuff that's going to go on that. So we're going to need to remove all these ones in preparation for that. So yet another moment here. I'm going to go ahead and get these off of here, and then we'll have new ones when we apply it. So basically all of this thermal material that was on here is going to be replaced when you apply your new pump. So keep that in mind going forward. Just take all this crap off before you even start doing any of this stuff. I wish I had known that, but they don't mention these things. There's not enough pictures in the steps. Like, it just jumps from step to step and things are just done, or it doesn't even mention things that should be done, and they just kind of bypass stuff. So give me 1 second here. I'll take that stuff off there. All right, I have gotten the gist of that material off there. Again, like, there's just no way to remove that stuff without it sticking and like peeling funny. It just comes off badly, and so I don't know. I don't think there's any way to really retain it for like use later. I think you just would have to buy more, but you can buy that stuff online and cut your own fairly inexpensively if you needed. Like, you can get on Amazon, or you can get on Newegg and buy, thermal material for RAM and for VRMs for, I don't know, probably 20 bucks. You could get a kit that would pretty much do the whole card. So it's not like it's that bad, but it's just, like I say, it sticks really badly and it doesn't come away nicely. And as you try to peel it away, like, chunks of it come off and get stuck to it. There's just, I don't see what you can do about it. So, all right, I've done what I can there. I've cleaned up that area again using some more isopropyl alcohol and some Q-tips and so forth to get that cleaned up. And then I hit it with some compressed air again just to blow off any additional little bits that were stuck to it. But for the most part, not too bad. All right, so back to our instruction set. It says to use, it says to remove the GPU memory heatsink from the hybrid kit and place it over the 4 mounting holes. At this time, remove any protective covering tape over the thermal pads before going to the next step. So we've kind of done that, but it says to take these things off of here. So there's like a plastic backing that we're going to take off, and then probably just do that. And then it says to take these off because this is going to be the new thermal padding that, well, like an idiot, I just got my finger on that corner of that. So watch that. Don't do it. Do as I say, not as I do, kind of thing. Damn it. This is why when you do this in front of the camera, people can see what a frickin' idiot you are. You can't edit out all the mistakes now, can you? People will wonder what you did. If you leave out any steps, then they'll wonder how you do the process in the first place. So just be careful when handling it. Try to keep from accidentally touching the thermal material that's going to go on your GPU, because that stuff apparently is a very thin layer, and you got to be careful that it doesn't come away when you touch it. This stuff's all in my way. Okay, next step I suspect is going to be super exciting. So it says, hold on, sorry, I got the wrong page up here. All right, so it says, so we've done what it said to do there. Looks like the picture to me. Make sure that that is in there how it's supposed to be. Seems to be. Doesn't say to use any screws or anything. So it says this time, see, this is going to be convoluted. You'll need to install the PCB onto the hybrid cooler. First, you'll need to reconnect the fans. So again, in this case, we're going to come down on this with, so we're not going to try to flip this thing over. We're going to take this card, you know, the GPU itself, and we're going to try to connect it to this instead. Well, that's going to be super exciting, but basically something along these lines. But you got to be able to connect the LED and this. See, this is like, would be nice if there was some way to secure this before you try to do that, because I suspect this will be interesting. So this again is the LED, and then we've got 2 down here for the fans. And boy, oh boy, they're going to try to make this exciting, I can tell. So, all right. So that was the black one. Here comes the brown one. And then we've got to figure out our LED, which is kind of difficult because I don't really have any way to see what the heck I'm doing here, you know? Boy, this is really... I question the thought process involved in this. Alright, so this is going to have to go. And then there's the LED head connector back, kind of like right there. Yeah. So this is going to be challenging, we'll say that. Okay, so those are more or less in place, but like I say, these wires are seeming to me to be really just dumb. Like they're kind of angry, like they don't want to lay down nicely, you know? So you kind of get all this lined up, I guess. Try not to break anything, but see, this is... It seems like you'd want to hook that up first or something. I don't know. Let me see what it says. Maybe I skipped a step or something. It says place a paper washer under the 4 GPU screws. So like they're talking about putting these little paper washers around here, but getting that lined up, I can tell that it's not perfectly lined up inside, and there was no, you know, step indicating at what point that was supposed to be done perfectly. I think they're pretty damn close though. I'm just kind of using the screwdriver to try to get those lined up as well as possible. I think they're pretty good. Maybe you guys can see a little bit better, but yeah, it's like I kind of just put the tip in there and just wiggle the edge a little bit to try to line up everything pretty nicely. This just doesn't sit real flush. I mean, obviously I'm going to screw it into place, but it just seems to me like, I don't know what they're thinking with some of these designs. I gotta tell you, like, this installation process to me is just like, why would you do this to me, you sons of bitches? But it says to take, this is probably really an unnecessary step, but it says to do it, so whatever. So it says to take these, and then it wants us to put one like on over each one of these. It's just like a little shim or something, I guess. So you can see, it says where to put that, and then it says place circles in blue and fasten them loose. Wait a minute, it says place a paper washer under 4 of each circle in blue, and then fasten them loosely. Fasten them with what? I don't know what the hell fasten them even means in this context. These are stickers. Like, what do you mean fasten them loosely? You jackwagons. Oh, that's nice. It doesn't even land correctly, then it just sticks automatically and you're stuck. You can't not fasten. Wow, this is really stupid. Alright, there you go. Hey, there you go. I mean, I barely even laid it on there, and it was trying to, like, you know, adhere right to it. So the whole fasten it loosely thing, I don't know what they're talking about there. I mean, that's pretty close. It's probably going to have to be sufficient. I don't even know what these people are smoking. You son of a bitch. And then So, pretty good. I think we need to reuse this at some point, but like I say, so far it's not really being straightforward with the steps. So it says fasten those loosely. Then it says reinstall your I/O bracket. Well, hold on. It said says fasten the 5 PCB short screws circled in red, and then fully fasten the GPU screws at this time. It didn't even tell me to use any GPU screws. I'm assuming that they're referring to this though, and then I'll put the back plate back on after that, and it'll just sit down over top of it. See, like I said, their instructions don't really tell you what they're even referring to half the time. I find that to be rather frustrating, that they're not doing a bit better job of telling you stuff. Let me see what they're referring to about these GPU screws, because it just, again, instructions like, no, damn near useless. Let's see. No, I guess you're not putting that back clamp. This isn't going back on it. It just says use forged GPU screws, which I guess are these, because those are the type that you usually put on stuff like this. Like I said, this thing just does not tell you stuff. It doesn't even show a picture of what screws that they're talking about as they do it. It says use forged GPU screws. It's like, okay, well, what the hell is that? Well, in this case, number 4 calls them spring screws. So again, there's probably something lost in translation here. Like whoever wrote this may not speak English as a first language. I couldn't tell you. Let's try to secure. It says to do it loosely initially. So let's see if we can't get a couple of these started anyway. That's probably going to be the trick, isn't it? That seems to be connecting at least. Oh yeah. Just get these, like I say, as it says to do a loose start on here. Alright, well at least they're started, so that was surprisingly effective. And then it says to use 5 PCB short screws. So it's just to do 2 of them up here, 1 down here, and then it looks like 1 here and 1 right here. And then the rest I think will be secured back down when we install the back plate. So these are short screws, it says. And it says we need 5 of them. So these little ones right here, I believe, are what they're referring to. So again, one there. Sorry, I bumped the camera. I sure hope that this works decently when all is said and done, because if we did all this and it doesn't even turn on, or there's some serious issue as a result, I'm going to be not happy. I don't know about you guys, but after this much effort and messing the thing up a little bit. See, this is where it comes in handy to have a little magnetized screwdriver. Why is this not fitting? Why are you not fitting? There's no way. It's not lined up wrong. I swear, stuff like this just does what it wants to mess with your life. That one's in there. Sorry if my arm was in the way. I don't get this. Like, it's lined up correctly, but it won't connect. it's not wrong, but it won't connect. All right, give me a second here. I'll get these screwed in here eventually, and then we'll go on to the next step. All right, it says the next step is to reinstall the I/O bracket. So I got those screws in there. You just kind of got to squeeze the edge of the shroud a little bit. It's like it kind of pops out just like a millimeter off, and then the screw won't make a good connection or get a bite, as they say. But it says to reinstall our I/O bracket. So guessing something along these lines. So I got to find the 3 screws that I had in there, but that's straightforward enough. I'm going to go ahead and just find those screws and get that in there. Give me 1 second. So these are like the little T-shaped. Hold on, I'll show you what I'm talking about here. Little T-shape, basically. I don't know if that's going to focus or not. Whatever. It's going to do what it wants to do. But it's shaped, like I say, kind of like a little T. Yeah, there you go. But there's 3 of those little ones that came with it. If you did like you should have did and put them off to the side somewhere in a little container or something, so you could just pick them right back up, then you can just put them back in. They're pretty straightforward for reconnecting those. Make sure I got these on there nice and tight. This has got to hold the GPU up in the case after all. But at least it weighs less now that we get that big cooler off there. So we've reinstalled our I/O shield. And then it says the last step is to put our back plate back on there, lined up as it was before, and then screw it back into place as shown. It says there's 2 blue ones, which is sort of interesting. And then there will be, so it says line up the screws. It says fasten the 7 backplate screws in red, and then fasten the 3 screws on the I/O bracket. But then it says lastly install rubber plugs into the holes designed for the NVIDIA support, circled in blue. Rubber plugs. Okay, well, I don't really know what they're referring to there, because I don't see any rubber plugs that came with this. Maybe I'm missing something in one of the little packages. But, yeah, I don't see any rubber plugs, and I don't know why there would be something like that all of a sudden on there that we didn't remove when we first took it apart. So that's a little bit strange. But, anyways, let me see. I got a little dust around these little holes from when the fans were blowing crap through there before. There we go. Done deal there. But it says to realign this up, so we're going to take and basically set this kind of back down how it was. Hopefully this will work, because like I say, they made me put those, what they called those short screws, in the back of the PCB. So I don't know if that's going to be an issue or not. Hopefully they know what they're doing with this stuff, I guess. Let's see, I've got the screws that were in it originally at the back plate. These little long kind of T-shaped screws, well, whatever, with a little bit of blue on them. Looks like all the back plate screws have the blue on them, so. See, I don't know. Hopefully this is going to screw into something else now, because a lot of these had those little nuts on each one of them for securing, like the I/O shield, for example. And I'm like, okay, well, I don't have that, or I don't know if that's going to be easy to get that back on there or not, I should say. Not that I don't have it. It seems to be connecting all right. This is turning into a long video. Hope you guys aren't super bored. I understand that this is not the most exciting process, and if I didn't do something right, it means I get to try to take it back apart and figure out where I goofed up. Won't that even be more exciting? I don't think I did anything wrong. Everything seems to be lined up pretty well, and it fit pretty well and didn't really require too much trouble to line everything up when I put it back together. Got a couple more. Like I said, this might be where it gets a little bit weird with the I/O shield, because it had those nuts on there. I suspect. Well, okay. Like I say, these appear to just screw into the new replacement shroud, so maybe it doesn't matter. You don't need the nuts, maybe, to get the I/O shield to stay in place. All right, that appears to be what we're talking about. I don't know what they're talking about here with, it says, again, like rubber plugs. Like what rubber plugs is it referring to? I don't know. Let me see if there's anything on the part manifest, because, I mean, you look at the part manifest, there's no rubber plugs. Well, 8, hold on, 8 it says rubber plugs, 3-piece. Okay. So they tend to give you like a little bit of extra of each thing that they think you're going to need. Like some of the screws that it said you need 5 of, like it gave me 8, for example, on some of the screws. So surely we can find those somewhere. I just don't see anywhere in the package that included any rubber plugs. I mean, like who cares, I guess, really. I mean, it's just like, it looks like 2 spots where screws should have been in there that there aren't, but I just think that's weird that they tell me that they included something, and I'm really not seeing it. Oh, you know what? It might be this right here. I don't know, that just looks like a thin sheet of something, like there's... Hard to tell. Let's get that open and look, because I think that's what they're talking about. Just sort of a weird thing to me. I should look at my actual hybrid card and see if it actually has something like that on it or not, because this just seems like, what the hell, you know? Oh yeah, okay. You can see they can kind of pop out, but there's like little circular pieces of rubber. I just think that that's a very strange idea, but whatever. Like, why are those holes there? I don't know. Alright, well that one fit in pretty well. They got a little bit of adhesive on them, and so I think that probably keeps them from moving around much once you get them in place. Alright. Alright, well, we plugged up those holes. I don't understand the purpose of the holes being there if they don't really need to be. But looks like everything turned out alright. In a second here, I'll stand this thing up. We'll have a look at it. Alright, we've got our card looking pretty sharp here, honestly. It looks like it's supposed to look, as far as I can tell. Like I say, I've got the other one already installed in my main system, and this is turned out to look pretty much identical. So we've got our little hybrid kit LED light strip here. I don't think there's anything that's on this. No, I just need to probably wipe that back off, because I touched it a few times. So we'll shine that back up here nice with our little cloth, sold separately. And 3 8-pin PCI Express power connections as usual. Oh, now you can see one of those freaking... Okay, there you go. Make sure. One of those little wires had kind of poked out of there. The LED wire was kind of like creeping out of that section. So there you go. That's, like I said, they don't fit in there real well, but I'm just making sure everything's spinning. Like none of the wires seem to be, you know, causing any problems or obstructing anything. But the card looks like it's supposed to look. I guess the next question is to see if it functions as it should function. And so you can see, once again, as I was talking about when installing the little connection between here, you got the wire for the 2 fans running out between the center and then the tubes, and then like this little plug kind of like shim goes over all of it and keeps it all nicely contained. It's just a little bit awkward to install that. So the other part of this, if you guys watched my previous video where I did the unboxing of the hybrid card, was let me see here if I can show you what I'm talking about. So these have all these RGB connections. I'm not going to use them today when I put this in the case that I've got, because as I pointed out, unfortunately the RGB connector on the back of this card was damaged a while back. Like I was moving around in the case, and it, like the little connector that was on it, like cranked to the side and bent it. Like they're really pretty what's the word I'm looking for? I don't want to say flimsy, but they're delicate connectors, we'll say. And one of them bent and broke off the damn thing, unfortunately. So I can't control RGB with this card anymore. I can with the other card, and when they're in the same system together, I can daisy chain all their fans together and it will still work. It's just that this card by itself won't be able to control RGB on the fans from the EVGA Precision X1 software. So like I'm just going to probably put this in the case, but not worry about the RGB. I'm just going to hook up the two fans themselves to this splitter, and then I can control at least the fan speed. Do that. We just won't have the pretty lights in this case. Unfortunately, the board I've got in the case I'm putting this back into is like the motherboard doesn't even have like modern RGB support. It has like the old 4-pin analog RGB, so we're not going to be able to do lights. Nothing impressive anyway, but like I say, we're more concerned with how it functions. And like I say, you've seen the lights if you watched my other video where I unboxed the full hybrid card, so no real need to do that. But next up, I'll go ahead and throw this in my my NZXT case. I forget what model case this is. It's H510, so it should fit in there because the full card fit in there just fine, and the front has room for a radiator this size, so I should be able to put this in that case and we can test it out and see how it does. So give me a few minutes and we'll get that done. Alright, I got it in this NZXT case, and I mean the tubes on this thing are pretty long, so you can kind of see if I can there you go. The tubes on it are pretty long. I've just kind of got it resting down here, and you could tie it off with something, or depending on how your case is set up, your mileage may vary, but there's like a door on this thing you can take off and mount the radiator to it and then put it back on. So the fans are behind that and they'll be blowing cold air in through it, which is fine because that's how I'm doing it on my other PC and it works well. And like I say, there's the two fans that'll be on there, water pump, radiator, etc. Got my power connected up to it and just kind of tied things off, come out of the way. I don't really care that much about how it looks so much. This is my secondary system with my i7-9700F and 32 gigs of Corsair Vengeance. And like I say, I had the Titan in here, but I've been using the 3090 unit. And eventually what we'll be doing here is, one second, you can see that case sitting down there on the floor. That is a very large case, and I'm a little farther away from it, but that's a Thermaltake Core X5. You can put up to 360mm rads in that. You can put 2 on the top and 1 in the front. So eventually what I want to do is put both these 3090s in with my Threadripper. I'll put the radiators on the top of the case for the GPUs and try to run the CPU radiator to the front if possible. I think that's got a pretty long set of tubes on it, but if that doesn't work and I can't make that happen, then it'll be CPU, GPU on top, and then the bottom GPU's radiator will be in the front of the case. It'll just look a little bit, it won't look as cool that way, but whatever. And that'll be eventually what I get around to doing it here. That'll be my next thing. It's just going to take some work, and then once I get all that done, I'll take the guts out of this PC and I'll put it back in my previous Vantex case that I've been using and put a Titan back in under, something like that, and it'll still be a good deep learning rig at that point. At least I'm trying to sell the Titan, so if I get that sold, then whatever, I'll go back to using it for a capture PC or something. But that said, I'll go ahead and fire this up and we'll see about temperatures and so forth and make sure it's working correctly. Hopefully it doesn't spray water all over the place. I'll be right back. Alright, I'm about to fire this thing up. I believe everything's hooked up correctly. If it has a problem, then it's going to blow water all over the place, and that'd be real lousy, but hopefully that doesn't happen. But otherwise, it should fire up for us here. I think there might, I'm kind of curious to see if there's going to be like a firmware update for it or something, because this card obviously is a 4013 Ultra converted with a hybrid kit, and I'm just kind of curious if like Precision X1 is going to recognize the change and attempt to install like a firmware update so it then reads as a hybrid, or how it's going to work. I don't really know yet, so we'll see. Well, so far so good. Just a second here, and we will see. Tell you what, I'll give it a second here. We'll see what some temps are doing and so forth. Alright, be right back. Alright, so you may be able to hear the fans. They're running really loud because this version of Precision X1 is still reading it as a 4013 Ultra, still showing the 3 fans instead of the 2. And as I recall, on the other hybrid that I installed, I had to download like the latest version of Precision X1 And once I did that, it then recognized the card properly and did a firmware update. So I'm going to see if installing the latest version of Precision X1 makes a difference. If not, then I don't know. Hopefully they've got some solution to that. They shouldn't be selling a kit that can't be utilized properly. So give me 1 second. Okay, so I downloaded Precision X1 version 1 underscore, oh, sorry, it's 1.1.4.0. So this is even newer than the version I had before. And as you can see, it is detecting that I need a firmware update, so we're going to do that. And you can hear, whenever you do a firmware update on these things, it's like the fans all flap to 100%. And they were already running pretty loud to begin with, so we'll give it here just a moment. And hopefully it will properly update and start detecting it as a hybrid, or at least let me control it with the appropriate, control the fans through this, and maybe even see if there's a pump control option. If that's the case, I need to update the software on my desktop downstairs, also my main machine with the Threadripper, because I don't have a fan, or I don't have, I should say, an option to do the pump control with that software. But that was like they've clearly done a couple updates real quick on this, because I think it was 1.1.2.0 that I had downstairs. It's still reading it as a 413 Ultra. It doesn't read it as a hybrid. So this is a little weird. Let's just see what this does. You can hear it picking up for noise. Temperature not so good. If that's reading correctly at 50, that's not what that should be doing at all. I wonder if that block is making a real good connection with the pump. Like if the GPU and the pump aren't making super good connection with each other, I don't know. I thought I tightened those down pretty good. Looks like the lighting still does all the same stuff. Yeah, that appears to work. So yeah, the color cycling and stuff all works, but the temperature at 50 degrees, that shouldn't be that hot. Doesn't seem like it's doing anything. And it's kind of hard to tell if this is actually reading the temperature correctly or not. Let me go into like GPU-Z or something. Oh yeah, I got a different version of that because that wasn't working last time I tried it as well. I don't know how that can possibly be at 50 degrees. Let me try reloading that software and see if that makes any difference. It shouldn't be idling anywhere near that hot. Still says 50. I know I got quieter, even though, like, this is probably, I don't know what this is doing. Like, this is something I've noticed too about their software lately, is it's supposed to retain the settings, but it's not doing it. Like for fan speeds. See, they're all back at 0 again for no reason. And it's already up to 50. Yeah, this is not working right. I just applied it. I don't even hear anything. Alright, it's picking back up on speed, but this is clearly not doing something correctly, boys and girls. So I guess I'm going to have to shut this down and play with it and see if, I don't know. I can feel water going through the tubes, so I'd say that the pump is working in that regard. But it's possible that maybe I didn't tighten down the block enough on the GPU or something, or it didn't line up quite correctly. I mean, everything seems to be perfectly aligned, so I don't know. But I'll come back to this here in a minute once I have a solution. So yeah, it turns out it helps real good if you tighten down the water block like you're supposed to. There was that one step, but it said to like start those screws and then to do the other, like the PCB screws, and I guess I forgot to go back to finish tightening down the water block. So I mean, it was on there but loosely and not making good contact with the rest of the board. Now this thing is pretty effing loud depending on what you do. So like on auto, it's quiet and it's idling it, as you can see, a pretty adequate temperature. If I do this, I think this might, I don't know if this does anything or not. This might be the pump, this might not do anything. See, all the temperatures are pretty good though. So obviously it fit really well against all those VRMs that we cleaned off. So that's good. Okay, well I guess this doesn't really seem to do anything, but if you turn, maybe one of these is the fan and one of these is the pump or something. Let's try one at a time, because it got pretty loud pretty quick. Still can't hear much. There, 55%. And I want to like my headset mic, so I don't know how well you guys can pick this up. I mean, I'm hearing a little bit. And there's probably a little bit of what I'd call coil whine. Like it's a little bit of a kind of noise. Not very loud, but I definitely can hear something. Now, if you had your case closed, though, you probably wouldn't be able to hear that. Let's see here. So you can hear it. It's starting to pick up. And that's only at like 58%. It's definitely not that loud downstairs. Let's just set these to like 60. I still think it should be idling at a better temperature than this. I'm not doing anything, and it's not hot up here. That's at 60. 60% rather. See, fan 3 is getting 0 RPMs anyway, so I think that it's because it's still reading it, like even after the firmware update, it's still reading it as a 4-1-3 Ultra. It's not reading it as a hybrid. I don't know if maybe trying to flash it with a hybrid BIOS might be the way to go. They've got the hybrid BIOS on their site, but I tried doing the overclock hybrid BIOS on my actual hybrid card, and it told me that I didn't have that card installed. So their BIOS updates don't even work as far as I can tell. So the temp is dropping back down a little bit now that I set it up to 60. Let's see how loud it gets it a little bit closer to 70%. I don't know if you guys can hear it or not through the mic again, but I mean, it's noticeable. That really shouldn't be. I don't know, I guess maybe what I'd have to do is bring my other PC up here, but this is a smaller case. It doesn't, yeah, I mean, it's coming back down a little bit. I was going to say, this is a smaller case than my other system. There's way less case fans. Like, that's one thing about that other fan, that case has got all those Noctua fans in it. And it, you know, it's got a lot of airflow going on in there. This one doesn't have nearly so much, and it's smaller, so the heat doesn't have as quite much. I mean, it's a good sized case, but it's not as big as that Fantex. That Fantex is a full tower. I guess what I'll do is I'll set up some kind of a test to just let it run for a while and see what kind of temps we hit at stock, and see if it's gonna, you know, do a good job. I mean, it appears to be doing an okay job, but I don't really think these are any seriously better temperatures than it was getting with the air cooler. Whatever. It looks cool though, which is super important. So give me 1 second here. I'm gonna go ahead and run. Maybe I'll run like superposition. That'll get the temp up pretty good on it, and we'll see, you know, where it ends up at. So 1 second. All right. So you can see the GPU temperature maxed out at 58 degrees, with minimum of 34. So after a while, it was starting to cool back down there. Like I say, it cranked up to 58. That's about, I mean, it's not a super long running test, but this is pretty comparable results then. Like I said, it's taking it a while to cool back off, but I'm upstairs. When I'm downstairs in the house, it's a little bit cooler, so there's going to be a little differential there. But yeah, I would say it's doing a comparable job to the native hybrid card. So like installing your own, you can get comparable results. It just takes, you know, like maybe an hour of your time to install it. It doesn't take that long if you're not trying to record it. So there's that. But it takes, you know, maybe 45 minutes to an hour of your time. If you want to be careful about it and don't make mistakes like I did. I should have taken more time to try to figure out how to disconnect that little blue plug before I damaged the damn thing. So luckily it didn't really matter, and wasn't even a needed plug anymore for the hybrid kit. But just be more careful than I was when doing this. So I guess to recap, you want to remove all that thermal padding crap off of your VRMs and your VRAM before you start, because it's going to have replacement material on the hybrid kit shroud. And make sure to tighten down your water block, because I'm dumb and forgot to finish that step. And like I say, the temperatures were obviously idling way too high. It was already at like 53 degrees idle and not even doing anything. So you definitely don't want to put yourself in that position. As long as you have a case with good airflow, this does a pretty good job. It might do a little bit better if mounted on the top of the case. I don't really have any way to test that. This particular case only has a single 120 millimeter fan spot on the top of it, so there's no way to mount this 240 millimeter rad on that. And then my main case downstairs, I've got the 360 millimeter rad from the CPU on top, so I really, again, don't have a way to test them on top of the case yet. But later, when I go ahead and install these on my Thermaltake case, when I do the two of them into the same system together with that, like I say, that large Thermaltake Core X5 case, we can try them on top and see if there's any noticeable difference in the temperatures. But I doubt it's much, if anything. It's just that it would be exhausting the heat out the top instead of pulling cool air into the case and pushing it through the radiator. But seems to be doing a good job. Like I say, comparable to the other card. I guess if anybody has any questions about the process, please go ahead and ask them in the comment section. If you like the video, give it a thumbs up. Maybe consider subscribing to the channel. Appreciate everybody that watched today. If I forget anything, remind me. But guys, have a great weekend. We'll talk to you again soon. Bye.